All the talk around King Charles' coronation, his views on Australian politics have been scarcely shared. Former High Commissioner to the United Kingdom George Brandis has exclusively told Sky News of the night he tutored the future king about Australia's climate wars.
As a scholar, former barrister and Attorney General, George Brandis is a lover of history, and as the former High Commissioner to the UK, came to know Prince Charles personally.
He is a man who wants to use the accident of nature that saw him born to be king to do good in the world.
The pair's longest discussion was in London at Australia House in March of 2020. With Australia still smouldering from bushfires, the Prince of Wales attended a fundraiser as the guest of honour, just days before the city's lockdown.
I have above all felt the greatest possible sense of admiration for the extraordinary determination and resilience of the Australian people.
He was very interested in what Australia and what the Morrison government was doing about climate change. And I did take the opportunity to explain to him at great length, I mean, we were sitting together for about 3 hours, at great length and in great detail, the political complexity that Morrison faced at the time in getting a net zero target through the party room and through the coalition.
It's fascinating. How did he find that?
Well, he was absolutely absorbed. I mean, I remember I said to him, well, do you really want to know? Because if you want to know, I'm going to tell you how politically tricky this is. So I gave him, I guess you'd say, a tutorial. And I probably shouldn't go any further, but I mean, he took a very granular interest in the progression of that issue in Australia.
As king, Charles can no longer involve himself in politics, but George Brandis says it goes to show
how interested Charles is in Australia. I mean, Charles absolutely loves Australia. There's no question at all that he regards Australia almost as a second home. He's been back to Australia 17 times.
Not only was he partly educated down under,
I've been through my fair share of being called a pommy bastard, I can assure you.
he once famously investigated buying property in Australia.
How do you think he thinks he's perceived?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I think he just gets on with it. I think he just gets on with trying to do his best.
Try and keep everything going.
Absolutely.
Come.
Brandis suspects Aussies don't quite get the monarchy, an institution that has evolved over more than 1,000 years. While it no longer has any great authority, he believes it has unrivalled convening power to do good.
If the monarch, the king or the queen, or a senior member of the royal family decides to take up a cause, that cause really gets taken very seriously.
The former High Commissioner says, judging by his genetics, Australians should expect Charles's reign to last not merely years, but decades.
But he's young. He's a young sort of 70-something. I mean, he's not a grumpy old man at all. I mean, he's mentally extremely alert.
3 cheers for His Majesty the King. Hip hip, hooray!
While others may have an appetite for a republic, Brandis isn't one of them.
The idea that the monarchy is, a medieval hangover is rubbish. The monarchy is an evolving institution that has shown a huge capacity to reinvent itself.
Is there a thrill in knowing that you're going inside the gates and then you...
There is a bit. There is a bit. Certainly the first time, sure.
What were you thinking at those moments?
I was just nervous, you don't want to say the wrong thing. But these are people who have spent their life putting other people at ease, and it was as easy as can be.
I need to think that it wasn't always a palace. It was a lovely stately home which has emerged into a palace.
That's right.
Palace or otherwise, the institution provides a ballast for Britons during times of uncertainty. Some consider the current climate, while not as dire, similar to Queen Elizabeth's coronation in 1953.
I mean, Britain has been through a terrible time. Let's be frank about this. I mean, there was Brexit, and whether you're for or against Brexit, it was a time of great turbulence. Then there was the pandemic, and then there was the political instability that saw 3 prime ministers in the space of 6 weeks. There is now, the energy crisis and so on, and the cost of living crisis. Britain is going through a very rough patch at the minute.
As it looks for leadership and stability, many now turn to a new generation of royals who may fly the same standard but bring different, more modern views.
Might I ask what sort of queen you think Camilla will make?
She's a fun person, Camilla. She's got a twinkle in her eye. She's very good with people. I remember at the end of this visit, she said, "No, come and introduce me to the staff who've been doing all the waiting and preparing the food." And she was great with them. You know, she's a terrific person, as a matter of fact.
Do you think she grounds him a bit more?
I suspect so. Most wives do.
A surprise jewel, perhaps, in a new king's crown. Jonathan Lee, Sky News.